Have you ever been home alone at night and suddenly felt like you weren't? Maybe it was just the house settling or the wind rattling a window, but for a split second, your heart stopped and your mind raced with possibilities. I used to laugh off those moments until the night I realized some fears aren't just in your head. There's something about the silence of an empty house after dark that makes every sound feel amplified. Every shadow seem deeper. Every creak and groan a potential threat lurking just out of sight. Tonight, I want to share 3 true stories that will make you question every noise you hear when you're alone. These aren't just urban legends or campfire tales. These are real experiences from people who thought they were safe in their own homes, only to discover how quickly that sense of security can shatter. If you think you know what it's like to be truly alone, think again. By the end of these stories, you might never look at your own home the same way again. So turn off the lights, lock your doors, and listen closely, because sometimes the scariest things happen when you're home alone at night. I was 16 the first time my parents left me home alone overnight. It was supposed to be a rite of passage. My mom even joked about it as she packed her suitcase, promising to call and check in before bed. My dad gave me a list of emergency numbers and a stern reminder to lock every door and window. I rolled my eyes, acting like it was no big deal, but as soon as their car disappeared down the street, the house felt different. Bigger. Emptier. Every sound seemed to echo. It was a Friday night in late October, and the weather matched my mood, restless and unsettled. Rain tapped against the windows, and thunder rumbled in the distance, just enough to make the lights flicker every so often. I tried to distract myself with a movie, but I kept pausing it, convinced I'd heard something moving in the hallway or the kitchen. Each time, it was nothing. Just the house settling, I told myself. Just nerves. By 10 o'clock, I was curled up on the couch, scrolling through my phone, trying to ignore the way the wind howled outside. That's when I heard it, a soft, rhythmic creaking, like someone slowly walking across the floorboards in the room above me. I froze, holding my breath, listening. The sound stopped. I told myself it was probably just the old pipes or maybe the cat, but when I called for her, she didn't come. I tried to laugh it off, but my voice sounded too loud in the empty room. I decided to check the doors and windows, just to be sure. The front door was locked, the back door too. I peered out into the backyard, but the darkness pressed against the glass, making it impossible to see anything beyond my own reflection. I moved from room to room, flipping on lights, checking locks, feeling a little silly, but also strangely relieved each time I found nothing out of place. I was halfway up the stairs when I heard another sound, a dull thud, this time from the basement. My heart skipped. The basement was the one place in the house I hated, even in daylight. It was unfinished, with concrete floors and exposed pipes, always cold and damp no matter the season. I stood at the top of the stairs, listening. Another thud, softer this time, like something or someone moving around down there. I tried to convince myself it was just the storm. Maybe something had fallen off a shelf. But the longer I stood there, the more certain I became that I wasn't alone. I grabbed the flashlight from the kitchen drawer, my hands shaking just a little, and forced myself to open the basement door. The smell of damp earth and old wood hit me immediately. I flicked on the light switch, but the bulb just buzzed and flickered, barely illuminating the stairs. I took a deep breath and started down, the flashlight beam trembling as I moved. Each step creaked under my weight, and the air felt colder with every foot I descended. At the bottom, I swept the light across the room, boxes, old furniture, nothing out of place. I was about to turn back when I noticed something strange near the small window at the far end of the basement. The glass was fogged up, streaked with rain, but there was something else, muddy smears, like someone had pressed their hands against the outside. I moved closer, my heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. That's when I saw them, muddy footprints leading from the window to the base of the wall. They were fresh, the mud still wet, and they definitely weren't mine. I knelt down, shining the flashlight on the prints, trying to make sense of what I was seeing. They were too big to be from a child, but too small for my dad. I felt a chill crawl up my spine, Suddenly, a flash of lightning lit up the window, and for a split second, I saw a face, pale, wide-eyed, pressed against the glass from the outside. I stumbled back, dropping the flashlight, the beam spinning wildly across the floor. I scrambled to my feet, heart racing, and ran up the stairs, slamming the door behind me. I locked it, then pressed my back against the wood, listening. Silence. Just the rain and the distant rumble of thunder. I called my parents, my voice shaking as I tried to explain what happened. My dad told me to stay upstairs, lock my bedroom door, and call the police if I heard anything else. I did exactly that, sitting on my bed with my phone clutched in my hand, staring at the door. Every creak, every gust of wind made me jump. I barely slept that night, flinching at every sound. The next morning, when the sun finally rose, I crept downstairs. The basement door was still locked. I forced myself to go down, flashlight in hand. The muddy footprints were gone. The window was clean, no smears, no sign that anyone had ever been there. I checked the backyard, but the rain had washed away any evidence. My parents came home later that day, and I tried to tell them what happened, but they just chalked it up to an overactive imagination and a stormy night. But I know what I saw. I know what I heard. And sometimes, late at night, when the wind rattles the windows and the house creaks, I wonder if whoever or whatever was at that basement window is still out there, waiting for another stormy night, another empty house, another chance. It's strange how a single night can change the way you see your own home. After that, every shadow seemed a little darker, every sound a little more suspicious. The fear never really left me. It just settled in, quiet and patient, waiting for the next time I'd be alone. But as terrifying as it is to feel watched in the safety of your own suburban house, there's a different kind of fear that comes with being alone in the city. Surrounded by people, yet completely isolated, you never really know who's watching or what's lurking just outside your door. If you thought the basement window was unsettling, wait until you hear what happened to someone living high above the city streets, where the only thing separating them from danger was a thin apartment door. This next story will make you rethink what it means to be truly alone. I always thought living in the city would make me feel safer. There's something comforting about being surrounded by people, even if you don't know their names. After college, I moved into a high-rise apartment downtown, 20 stories up, with a view of the city lights and the constant hum of life below. My friends envied my independence, my parents worried, but I loved the feeling of being anonymous, untouchable, high above the chaos. That changed the night the elevator started acting up. It was a Thursday, late enough that the building was quiet, most people already in for the night. I just finished a late shift at work and was looking forward to a hot shower and some mindless scrolling before bed. The lobby was empty except for the security guard, who barely glanced up as I walked in. I pressed the button for the elevator, yawning, and stepped inside as soon as the doors slid open. I hit the button for the 20th floor and leaned against the wall, eyes half closed. The elevator hummed to life, rising smoothly until it didn't. Around the 12th floor, the lights flickered and the car shuddered to a stop. My heart skipped. I pressed the emergency button, but nothing happened. The lights flickered again, then steadied. The elevator jerked and continued upward, slower this time, as if struggling. I tried to laugh it off, telling myself it was just old wiring or a power surge from the storm outside. When the doors finally opened on my floor, I stepped out quickly, glancing over my shoulder. The hallway was empty, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. I hurried to my apartment, locked the door behind me, and tried to forget about it. But that was just the beginning. The next night, I was brushing my teeth when I heard a knock at my door. Not a friendly, neighborly knock. This was slow, deliberate, almost hesitant. I froze, toothbrush still in my mouth, listening. Another knock, then silence. I crept to the peephole, heart pounding. The hallway was empty. I waited, barely breathing, but no one appeared. I told myself it was probably just someone at the wrong door, but I double-checked the locks before going to bed. Over the next few days, the elevator grew more unpredictable. Sometimes it would stop on random floors, the doors opening to empty hallways. Once, it took me all the way down to the basement, even though I hadn't pressed the button. The lights would flicker, and I'd catch glimpses of my own reflection in the mirrored walls, looking pale and anxious. Then, one night, I saw him. I was coming home late again, arms full of groceries, when I noticed someone standing at the end of the hallway. He was tall, wearing a dark hoodie, his face hidden in shadow. He didn't move, didn't say anything, just stood there, watching. I fumbled with my keys, trying not to look like I was panicking, and slipped inside my apartment as quickly as I could. I pressed my back against the door, listening. Nothing, just the hum of the city outside my window. After that, I started seeing him more often. Sometimes he'd be in the lobby, pretending to check the mail. Other times, I'd catch a glimpse of him in the elevator mirror, standing just behind me, only to turn and find the car empty. I stopped taking the elevator at night, choosing the stairs instead, even though it meant climbing 20 flights. But the worst night was the last. I was coming home from a friend's place, later than usual. The building was eerily quiet, the kind of silence that makes your skin crawl. I told myself I was being paranoid, that the city was full of weirdos, and I just needed to be careful. I pressed the elevator button, glancing over my shoulder, and stepped inside when the doors opened. As soon as the doors closed, I felt it, a presence heavy and cold. I turned, and there he was, standing in the corner, his face still hidden by the hood. My breath caught in my throat. I tried to press the emergency button, but my hand was shaking so badly I missed it. The elevator started moving, but instead of going up, it went down, past the lobby, past the basement, to a sublevel I didn't even know existed. The doors slid open to darkness. He stepped out, turning to look at me for the first time. His face was pale, eyes wide and empty, a twisted smile spreading across his lips. I stumbled back, slamming the closed door button, my heart pounding so loud I could barely hear anything else. The doors finally closed, and the elevator shot upward, faster than I thought possible. When the doors opened on my floor, I ran to my apartment, locked the door, and collapsed on the floor, shaking. I called the building manager, but when they checked the security cameras, there was no sign of anyone else in the elevator with me. No one matching my description of the man had been seen in the building at all. I moved out a week later. I still dream about that night, about the elevator going down, 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 to a place that shouldn't exist. Sometimes when I'm alone in a new apartment, I'll hear a slow, deliberate knock at the door, or catch a glimpse of a shadow in the hallway mirror. I wonder if he followed me, or if he's still there, waiting for the next person who thinks they're safe, high above the city streets. It's easy to believe that being surrounded by people in a city means you're never truly alone. But sometimes, that's exactly what makes the fear worse. The idea that someone could be watching you, hidden in plain sight, and no one would ever notice. The city's constant noise and movement can't drown out the feeling of being hunted, or the memory of a face you can't explain. But as terrifying as it is to be stalked in a crowded building, there's a different kind of horror that comes with being home alone in the quiet, where every sound is magnified and every silence feels loaded with threat. If you thought the elevator stalker was chilling, the next story will make you question every ring of your phone, every creak of the floorboards, and every moment you think you're safe. Because sometimes, the scariest threats are the ones that find their way inside. I never used to be afraid of being alone at night. In fact, after my divorce, I found a strange comfort in the quiet, just me, my daughter, and the gentle hum of our old house settling after dark. Our home was small but cozy, tucked away on a tree-lined street where nothing ever seemed to happen. I tuck my daughter in, listen to her soft breathing as she drifted off, and then settle in downstairs with a book or a show, grateful for a few hours of peace. That night started like any other. My daughter Emma was already asleep upstairs, her favorite stuffed animal tucked under her arm. I made myself a cup of tea and curled up on the couch, the glow of the lamp casting warm shadows on the walls. Outside, the wind rattled the branches against the windows, but inside, everything felt safe. Familiar. I was halfway through my tea when the phone rang. It startled me, not just because it was late, but because hardly anyone called the landline anymore. I glanced at the clock, 11:17 p.m. I hesitated, then picked up, expecting maybe a wrong number or a telemarketer who didn't know the time. Hello? My voice sounded too loud in the quiet room. Silence. Not the kind of silence where you can hear someone breathing, or shuffling, or even the faintest background noise. Just a dead, empty line. I waited a few seconds, then hung up. A little unsettled, but not enough to do more than roll my eyes. Probably a robocall glitch, I told myself. I went back to my book, but I couldn't focus. Every time the house creaked, I found myself glancing at the phone. 20 minutes later, it rang again. This time, I let it go to voicemail, but whoever it was didn't leave a message. I tried to shake it off, but a cold knot had started to form in my stomach. I checked the locks on the doors, peered out the window into the darkness. The street was empty, the only movement the swaying of the trees in the wind. I too told myself I was being ridiculous, that I was just tired, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. At midnight, the phone rang a third time. I answered, my voice sharper now. Hello? Who is this? Again, nothing, not even the faintest breath. I pressed the phone to my ear, straining to hear anything at all. Then, just as I was about to hang up, I heard it. A soft, almost imperceptible click, like someone had covered the receiver with their hand. The line went dead. My heart was pounding. I tried to tell myself it was just a prank, maybe some kid with a spoofed number, but the fear was starting to creep in, slow and cold. I checked on Emma, who was still fast asleep, her small face peaceful in the glow of her nightlight. I locked her window, just in case, and pulled the curtains tight. Back downstairs, I turned on the TV for background noise, hoping it would drown out the silence. But every time the phone rang, the sound cut through everything, sharp, insistent, impossible to ignore. The fourth call came at 12:37 a.m. This time, I didn't answer. I just stared at the phone, willing it to stop. It didn't. The calls kept coming, every 15, then 10, then 5 minutes. Always the same, no voice, no sound, just that suffocating silence. I unplugged the phone, thinking that would be the end of it, but my cell buzzed almost immediately. Unknown number. I let it ring, my hand shaking. I tried to call the police, but what could I say? That someone was calling and not saying anything? They'd tell me it was a prank, or a glitch, or maybe even my own nerves. I paced the living room, every muscle tense, listening for any sound that didn't belong. At 1:12 a.m., the cell rang again. This time I answered, my voice barely more than a whisper. What do you want? Silence. Then, so faint I almost missed it. A sound, breathing. Slow, deliberate, like someone was holding the phone just inches from their mouth. I felt a chill crawl up my spine. If you don't stop, I'm calling the police, I said, my voice trembling. The breathing stopped. The line went dead. I checked the doors again, made sure every window was locked, every curtain drawn. I grabbed a kitchen knife and sat at the bottom of the stairs, listening for any sound from upstairs. Emma was still asleep, thank God, but I couldn't shake the feeling that we weren't alone. At 1:45 a.m., the cell buzzed with a text. No number, just a message. Upstairs. My blood ran cold. I raced up the stairs, heart pounding so hard I thought I might pass out. I burst into Emma's room. She was still there, still sleeping, but the window was open, the curtains fluttering in the wind. I slammed it shut, locked it, and scooped her up, whispering that everything was okay, even though I didn't believe it. I called the police, my voice shaking as I tried to explain what was happening. They said they'd send a car, but it would be a while. I grabbed my keys, wrapped Emma in a blanket, and ran out to the car, locking the doors behind us. I sat there, engine running, watching the house, waiting for the police to arrive. When they finally did, they searched the house from top to bottom. No signs of forced entry, no footprints, nothing out of place except for the open window. They told me it was probably just a prank, maybe someone with a scanner picking up our number. But I knew better. I knew what I'd heard. We stayed with my sister for a few days after that. I changed the locks, got rid of the landline, installed cameras. But the fear never really left. Sometimes, late at night, I'll hear the phone ring in my dreams, or wake up to the sound of breathing that isn't mine. Emma doesn't remember that night, but I do. I remember every second. And sometimes, when the wind rattles the windows and the house creaks, I wonder if the silent caller is still out there, waiting for another quiet house, another late night, another chance to remind someone that they're never really alone. There's something about being home alone at night that strips away all the comfort and familiarity we usually feel in our own spaces. The walls that protect us during the day can start to feel like they're closing in, and every harmless sound becomes a possible threat. Whether it's the creak of a floorboard, the flicker of a shadow, or the ring of a phone in the darkness, our minds fill in the blanks with the worst possibilities. It's a fear that's almost universal, no matter how old you are or where you live. That sense of vulnerability never really goes away. The stories I've shared tonight aren't just about things that go bump in the night. They're about the moments when our safe places turn strange, when the familiar becomes unfamiliar, and when we realize that sometimes the scariest things aren't monsters or ghosts, but the unknown intentions of other people. Maybe you felt it too, the sudden chill when you realize you're not as alone as you thought, or the way your heart races when you hear a noise you can't explain. If you've ever had a night where you couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching, or a moment when you questioned your own senses, you're not alone. I'd love to hear your stories. Share them in the comments below, and let's see just how many of us have felt that same creeping dread. Who knows, maybe your story will be the next one someone hears in the dark, making them wonder what's really out there. So next time you're home alone and you hear a noise or see a shadow move just out of the corner of your eye, remember, you might not be as alone as you think. Sleep tight.